Hey everybody, it's Fan Flynn Productions back with another video. Today I talk about Prison Break and the rumors and the discussion around the possible or maybe not so possible season 6. Show is 5 seasons in. For the past year or more, fans have been speculating when season 6 would happen, what it would be about, who would come back, who wouldn't. A story broke there, I'm not sure, it was a week or two ago, where Wentworth Miller, who plays Michael Scofield, who's essentially the main character of the show, says that he won't be coming back, that he's finished with the show. And you know, a lot of actors say that, and I'm sure he said that back when season 4 finished, and you would probably usually think, well, he'll probably return to it one day, that he just probably isn't in the mood for it at the moment. But his reasons for not coming back are pretty, you would suspect, are pretty definitive, and he probably won't go back on. He maintains that because he's a gay person in real life, that he doesn't want to keep playing straight roles in movies and TV shows, which is pretty understandable. I had kind of thought about that in the past, that I don't know how long ago he came out in real life, but I remember at the time thinking that the more he does Prison Break, would that be an issue? I didn't necessarily think he would completely shut down any plan of coming back. But again, I don't want the video to be about me, maybe complaining or bitching about his decision, because clearly that's his decision, and it's not something I can really understand as a straight person. So there's no point me complaining about it and being kind of childish. And all the fans wanted the show to come back. Well, I think most of them wanted to come back. I think a lot of people think the show's quality's dropped since season 2 anyway. So maybe people didn't particularly want the show to come back. Season 5 was well enough received. For me, season 5 was an improvement on season 4. But again, it was a little bit contrived and far-fetched, even more so than Prison Break usually is. So if there ever was going to be season 6, I was hoping that it would maybe simplify things and get back to what the show was about, and get back to a more basic, straightforward season, maybe more centralized on 1 or 2 characters, and maybe not so kind of outlandish and kind of action based like the show's kind of got in the last 3 seasons or so. But without Wentworth Miller coming back, without Michael Scofield, I had a deep thought into, could the show be brought back without Wentworth Miller, without Michael? And the more I thought of it, the more I leant on the idea that it probably couldn't. People will say that you could bring back Lincoln Burrows, which is Michael's brother, played by Dominic Purcell, I think it is, which seems like it kind of makes sense because it was Michael and Lincoln that were the main characters. So people would think, well, you could bring back Dominic, but really, to be honest, the show was always about the 2 brothers. I don't particularly think you could bring the show back without either of them, without one of them being there. Maybe you could do it with just Michael, because Michael sort of is a different sort of character. He is the mastermind behind all this. Lincoln has always been the guy that's either, other than season 3 where Lincoln is not on the outside trying to help Michael, and again I suppose he helps him in season 5 as well. Lincoln has sort of been the character who is in trouble, and Michael is trying to use his mastermind ways to get him out of trouble. So to have a season 6, to have a new season where Lincoln would be in it, and Lincoln potentially would be getting in trouble and getting in bother, maybe be imprisoned or something along those lines. And for Michael not to help him doesn't really make sense. I mean, the whole 5 seasons we've seen of it, the two brothers, the love for each other, that they would do anything, that they'll go to any lengths to help each other and save each other and always be there. Wouldn't really make sense to make a season where Lincoln's in a lot of peril and trouble, and Michael essentially is nowhere to be found. It just wouldn't make sense storyline wise, and it just wouldn't ring through. Being a fan of the show, you know that Michael will always come to help Lincoln and vice versa. So I don't think you can include Lincoln based on the fact that if he's in it, Michael needs to be in it, and potentially you could have done it the other way around. If it was Lincoln that could have been in the show and Michael was up for coming back, or Wentworth was up for coming back. I feel you possibly could have done that, because maybe with the people that Michael got involved with in season 5 and his ties to the company, that there could have been ways to kind of take him out of his orbit with his brother and maybe do something. But I don't think it's going to work without Michael. So the question goes then is, how do you bring the show back? And this is based on should the show be brought back at all. But I'm just trying to flesh it out and try to discuss and try to decide, is there any possible way to come back? I don't think you can do a show around Sucre as much as he's a likable, good character. He's sort of a side character. He's sort of a character that, as much as people love him, I'm not sure you could center a whole season around him. Maybe I'm underestimating the character of Sucre, but I don't see it. Other characters like C-Note, I think C-Note had an actually pretty good character in season 2? I think it might have been season 2. Wasn't it season 2? Yeah, I think it was season 2. C-Note got a pretty good fleshing out of his character. And there in that, you could see that there was more to him. And then C-Note was in season 5. So he's potentially a character you could bring back. It's that thing of who do you center the show on if you don't have the likes of Michael, Sarah, and Lincoln. And I don't think you can have those. I don't think you can have Sarah and Lincoln without Michael. People could disagree with me on that, but I think that's true. I think that you can't bring any of those characters back if you don't have to trade them. They're sort of intertwined. So again, you look through the list of characters. I think the only character that is interesting enough, that is loved by fans enough, and actually possibly has more to be looked into and possibly has more interesting stories to tell, is Mahone. I think William Fichtner's character Mahone is probably the only character you can bring back and maybe give him a more central role, and it would be pretty worthwhile, because he's probably the most interesting and complex character in the show, because he started off as this kind of one-note arsehole that was just villainous and people hated him, and he was always interesting. But then he slowly found out what his character was about, and then you go into season 3 and 4 where he's this kind of heroic character. So his character was so believable, and you hated him, then you loved him. So I think Mahone's character is probably the one actor and character that you can bring back in a proposed reboot or side season of Prison Break, and it's the one thing that would probably get me excited. Now, whether they would center a whole season around him is another thing, but again, I think it's probably the best bet. People like Kellerman, I think Kellerman was killed in season 5, spoiler, so he would have been an interesting character to spend more time with, to give a bigger role to, but I think they've killed him out of it. I think it's pretty concrete that he's killed, but then again, in Prison Break, nothing's really certain. No characters are really ever gone for good. You know, to try and think of any other characters that would be worth spending time and giving a prominent role in a season 6, in some sort of reboot of the show. I don't think there's any other glaring candidates that you would think are really worth doing it on. Yeah, I think Mahone, Teabag, C-Note, Sucre, those guys are maybe a mix of those characters would be worth it. I suppose the question is, when you could get a great script for all this, would fans really want to see it without the two brothers and Sarah? I think a large portion would, if you had all those other interesting characters people love, because Prison Break, in fairness, as much as it was centered around the brothers, there was lots of great characters like the ones I listed, Teabag, Mahone. I think Prison Break has a lot of really good characters, and if you lose the brothers, there is still enough likable, interesting characters that people would tune in to watch. But it's to promote the show without Wentworth and Dominic Purcell. It does seem a hard sell. They are the focal point of the whole show. But again, maybe if it's a spin-off reboot type thing, it is possible that those other characters are worth exploring. But it's an interesting one. Do I think that we'll never see any more Prison Break? Probably not. I think in some way it'll come back. So what do you think? Do you think that there is any possibility of another Prison Break without Wentworth Miller? And what would that show look like? Who would it be about? Would it be completely new characters? Or would it bring back some of our favorites, like the ones I mentioned? What do you think? Let me know what you think, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you.